is for apple. We know this. And yet, it is probably one of the worst ways to teach your child to read. It's definitely one of the worst ways to teach the letter sounds. Still, we do it again and again and again with our kids. Apple. Apple. And it's not just with this one, okay? It's with almost all of the letter sounds. We take a sound. Now, I've got like cute pictures on the back of my card, so we're usually not saying Yeti, but we take the sound and we always put a picture with it. We always put a word with it. So every time we say the sound, our kid is hearing that word right after. And there is no research to suggest that this is a strong way to teach reading. In fact, quite the opposite is true, because if you're teaching your child, A is for apple, 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 and that's all they hear, when they go to actually sound out a word, there's a couple problems they might run into. And I actually worked with a child last week where this happened, okay? We got to a word and I was telling him, okay, let's sound it out. And he's going, K. I'm like, good. Next sound, he goes, apple. He said it in the middle of blending the word. He literally said the word apple. And every time he got to the letter O, he said octopus. Ip. Good. Op.
Octopus.
Up. Up. It was like this automatic thing in his brain. I see A, I say apple. I see O, I say octopus. And if every time you're teaching your kid, you're going, apple, 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 what is your kid going to say when they see the A? They're probably going to say apple. If they don't do that, the other problem we're going to run into, let's take the same word. Let's say that we show it to our kid, but they're always used to seeing a picture right next to the letter. They see a picture of a cat next to the C. They see a picture of an apple next to the A. They see a picture of a turtle next to the T. What's going to happen when that picture is taken away? They might not recognize these letters at all. You might say, okay, now what do the sounds say? And they go, right? They don't have the picture next to it. And when we rely heavily on saying, okay, here's the letter, here's the picture, here's a letter, here's the picture. We take the picture away, they may not know that letter, okay? This isn't helpful. And I know what you're gonna say. You're like, Spence, but kids need to know first sounds. They need to know the different sounds that are in words. And that's definitely true. But you've gotta separate out the process because there's two different things that are happening, okay? I'm gonna put an A for auditory and a V for visual. So when you're teaching your child to read and they see the sound, let's say we take the sound Y, for example, there is an auditory skill of being able to hear words with the Y sound in it. You can close your eyes and you can do this and you go, Spence, what's the first sound in yellow? I can hear it and go, Y. That's auditory. You can say, Spence, what are some other words with the Y sound in it? I can say young, yet, yak, right? I can hear and I can tell you that is an auditory skill. Recognizing the sounds is a visual skill. To be able to see this letter and say, that one says, yeah, that is visual. It requires our eyes to be open and for us to be seeing. And what happens when we're going, yeti, yeti, is we are mixing two skills at once. We're doing a visual skill of recognizing the letter with an auditory skill of hearing that that letter sound is in the word yeti. And it gets very confusing for kids because we're not teaching the auditory skill very well. When all we do is focus on the same picture over and over and over again, they're not really learning first sounds. They're just learning that for some reason, every time I see the A, I hear the word apple. It is not doing a good job with the auditory part. But when we always put the A with the apple, we're also not doing a good job of the visual part because we're always giving them other visual info. We're also giving them the picture. And when we take it away, it gets very, very challenging. So if you say, okay, I want to teach my kid their sounds and I really want to make it stick, let me put some pictures next to it, I'd recommend you don't. There is a time and a place for teaching children the sounds that are in a word. There's a time and a place for the auditory skills. That time and place is separate from when you're teaching them the letter sounds. Maybe you go like this. Maybe you say, okay, we're going to spend a little bit of time recognizing the letter sounds. We're going to learn that this one says ah, that this one says and that this one says ah. Okay, we're going to spend some time working on those three sounds. Then, once we finish, we're going to spend some time listening to those sounds in words. We're going to think of other words with the ah sound in it. Maybe at the beginning, like apple. Maybe in the middle, like hat. But we're going to spend a different time outside of this focused on the auditory stuff, right? But if we want to teach both well, we should not be teaching both together. We should separate it out and do each component the right way. And I know you're like, Spence, this is probably like too in the weeds. You're being really particular. You always say, stop doing this, stop doing this. I get it. But this is from experience with hundreds and hundreds of kids. And maybe you have one kid who learned to read like this just fine. But for every one child who is just fine, there are several more who struggle if we're not teaching this really, really well, which means separating out the picture from the letter and teaching that letter sound all by itself. Now, if you want to learn more about how to teach the letter sounds, there's a couple really important things that you need to know, like how many letter sounds to teach at a time, what to do once they've learned the sound, and also what to do when they're struggling to learn a sound. I have all of this in my Learning Sounds course designed to help your child learn all 26 of these single letter sounds fast without having to worry about whether or not you're teaching it the right way or not. I also have a free training in my bio to help you get started, completely free, that's going to help you learn how to get started teaching these letter sounds. So I hope this video is super helpful for you, that you leave feeling encouraged and not embarrassed, because we've all done this. And until next time, I will talk to you soon.